So thanks everyone for coming. I just wanted to start off by saying that this is a safe space. Obviously there's cameras rolling, but like I said before, if there's things people want to share and they at the end can just be like, let's not put that bit in. The last 6 years of my life have been in the social media world, and that's where most of us have connected at some point on that journey. And the beginning of last year, coming to LA and settling with Raya just felt like it's a shift for me from actually a bit of an addiction to kind of churning out videos and playing the game on social media to think like, what do I really want my life and message to be about? Especially from hearing from different friends in this kind of industry and whatever, like how they're struggling with stuff and feeling isolated and disconnected and disillusioned. And I just thought, I really want to be a support to people and find ways to gather people together and just talk about real life and be a support to one another. So me and Brandon setting up this thing called the Social Good Club, which we've held a few meals and little intimate events, and that's a big part of what I'm committing my time and effort into, as well as on the side making content. I think a big shift for me is like being more of a support and mentor and bringing people together into spaces like this. And I just want to acknowledge you all and appreciate that you all came down. And maybe we could all go around and just introduce ourselves, just so everyone knows everyone, and then hand over to Russell to lead us all in a bit of a conversation and maybe hear what you've been up to and what your course is about and this whole kind of journey you've been on, and then we can just start sharing it as vulnerably as we want to.
As long as I know in the back of my mind there will be a bit where it sort of comes to me and I get to talk loads, I think I can really relax. Yeah. So reassuring to know. Yeah. Be kind, listen, be kind. Very much. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm Raya, and I'm a YouTuber and content creator, and I used to travel full time with Louis. We traveled for years all around the world, and a lot of my content used to be focused on just travel vlogs. And throughout my journey, I've started sharing more and more of my personal journey as I'm learning to be kinder to myself, others, and the planet. And so my channel is shifting more and more into that, just sharing my journey into conscious living and hopefully inspiring others to go on their own journey.
Hi, I'm Elle. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Canada, and I make videos about my life, but in like a teen movie format. Like I describe it as if Ferris Bueller had a YouTube channel, and so that's what I've been doing for the past 2 to 3 years. Being a YouTuber has kind of been my childhood dream, and because I grew up with YouTube, and it's been had a lot of ups and downs, but right now, good vibes.
Cool, my name is Matt, also from Canada, one of the many Matts in the room. I'm a YouTuber, content creator. I've been doing it for 10 years now, and I have learned a lot about spirituality and have been focusing a lot on my mental health over the last 3 years, because as you know, it can be really difficult being a content creator with the tremendous pressure of creating online, and now I'm a mental health and meditation advocate on top of content creator.
Amazing. Hello everybody, another Matt. I started a YouTube channel with my friends in 2015 called Yes Theory, and our whole motto is seek discomfort. So we go around the world taking strangers and subscribers with us to get out of our comfort zones, because we believe that life is best lived on the other side of your comfort zone. I am here because Louis kindly invited me, and I've struggled over the last 7 years with loads of anxiety, not only from YouTube, but just personal life as well. And social media is a very weird thing to get into if you have anxiety, so it was an interesting combination. And now I feel like I'm really making the effort to get on the other side of it, and being in places like this with people like you really helps. So I'm excited to learn and hear your stories.
My name is not Matt, it is Kandee. I'm breaking the whole chain here. This next week will actually be 11 years that I will have been on YouTube, and I content YouTube creator, all that stuff, but I started in like makeup and beauty and turning myself into other people and cutting t-shirts and doing all kinds of random things, but my biggest videos were always the transformations when I turned myself into other people. And it's a lot of pressure, like you said. It's much more than anybody knows, like the pressure to keep going and get people to keep seeing what you're doing. And I had a lot of things happen in the last couple of years, so this in my whole time was the first time it's been 1 whole year since I posted a video, which feels like so weird to even say that because I was like 2 videos a day. So I feel like I'm just in a place of discovering like a new direction and growth, and the pressure of what the internet has caused is amazing dreams coming true, but then like just crazy stress and anxiety and bouts of depression from this. So I'm just kind of at that place of seeing what am I going to do? How can I still help people through this, you know?
I'm Brandon. I'm probably the one person at this table that doesn't have a channel.
What? Start one right now.
A little bit of an outlier. So I don't post every day.
Vlog your life.
I spent the last 10 years in and out of the music industry, and after a family situation that had to do with mental health and suicide, decided to dedicate my life to addressing social isolation and loneliness. And that's where I kind of linked up with Louie, and we've taken on this new mission of using social media to address some of the more difficult things for individuals to address for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm a licensed therapist and I have a mental health channel on YouTube. So most of what I do is just education based, although I'm still a creator, so I feel it. Yeah. And just because I know better doesn't mean I do better. I should. My own therapist. You know, but so that's what I do. I've been on YouTube for 8 years now. Actually, just last month was 8 years.
Wow.
God, that was quite an. I'm Russell. I also do things on YouTube. It's very overwhelming to listen to you all. Thank you for corralling everyone together and generating this experience. I suppose, like for me, it's exciting to listen to you talking about the duality of content creation. That is something that's fulfilling and exciting, but I suppose because, and I hate to acknowledge this because it involves me admitting a kind of age difference, that you're so articulate about emotion and so willing to talk about it, and that it's a sort of the conversation about having success and creativity sort of seems to automatically include discussing anxiety, mental health, attachment, and like you in particular talking about that sort of reaching a point of crisis even within the strain of that medium. And so I'm very excited to see how the work I've been doing, Louis, can support and align, coalesce even with the stuff that you're talking about, because my strong sense is that it will, from listening to you all. And I got a nice little feeling that you all could be kind of like a Justice League Avengers of, if you needed to. You're already in costume already. You've better be getting over that habit. What do we do now, Louis? What should we specifically talk about? Do you reckon?
Not everyone knows. Like I've been clued up to, like the course you're releasing, the recovery story. It might be nice just to update people in a brief, your story a little bit, and what's brought you to this point. I'm sure you're good at talking about yourself.
Yes, I am actually. Yes.
But it might
if you do it for context. 2 or 3 decades, you start to really develop a taste for it and an ability. So, firstly, it's nice to see how you're maturing. Last time I met you, I feel like it was a YouTube-related event, and I think Jamie Oliver was there, and it was very, very much coloured by the things I remember mostly is veganism and parkour. These seem to be the things like people wanted to never eat any animal products, and they wanted to clamber over every possible obstacle.
That was in the height of my daily vlogging as well. I remember thinking, grab the camera, Russell's here. I
think you did do
meeting you.
This
on
seems
camera,
familiar.
Like,
this has happened before.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's been a bit of a journey for me.
And you've become much more like Daniel Day-Lewis, like a sort of dreadlocked Daniel Day-Lewis, which I think is one of the characters he's yet to inhabit. So what's happened to me is sort of comparable to some of the things that I've heard already around this table. The initial excitement and attraction, in my case with traditional media or even live work, there's sort of these adrenalized portals to approval that like I've lived in for a lot of my life. In fact, when I first discovered that performing and showing off was something that I could feel validated from, I felt like I'd been given a key. But my weirdness and strangeness that up to that point had been like a sort of a painful and disruptive thing was now a kind of utility. Now I feel like what fame, notoriety, other people people's attention does. And I recognise that you guys are living in a sort of a new paradigm, should we say, or at least an evolution of fame, as I understand it, because you're creating your own content, you're fully autonomous, much like a drone, brilliantly given to a 2.5-year-old niece. You're free to fly in whatever direction. This is a literal reference to something that's happened. I've not gone mad. You know, you're free to create your own content and stuff. Now, me, I've like necessarily been marshalled by the institutions that I've worked within, first the TV in the UK, then like films and stuff in this country or in Los Angeles. And curiously enough, I suppose I've had experiences that chime with a lot of what you're saying, that you live your external life in conjunction with this more private reality, and if that private reality is not being expressed, you know, not least sometimes because we're not entirely aware that it's happening, or we're bludgeoning it with drugs or sex or porn or sugar or relationships or, you know, view counting or like gathering. I believe you gather the likes, don't you? Like squirrels gather into a bus. Look at all those likes. Keep them there all safe. Nail the lid down. You know, for me, what I like, I've been through these series of various crises, obvious ones like a drug dependency, but then subtler and more socially approved ones around sort of like sex and behaviour, and then more latterly even than that, because this is like a while ago, more latterly than that, recognising that, wow, if you live entirely for external approval, for other people's validation, you're going to live a very disruptive and difficult life. And it's because I'd lived so long schooled in the previous modality, it's very difficult to transition. I'd say more than difficult, impossible, unless the two following things happen. One, some kind of spiritual awakening, often induced by pain, despair, and two, support of a community with the same objectives and vision. And of course, it's a well-worn trope that in this age of social media and constant connection, people feel more alienated and isolated than, you know, I don't know about any other time, how would we compare it? But there is a sort of a sense of isolation and alienation, speaking to your point there, Brandon. And like the system that we're developing is a sort of a, you know, like a century-old system for dealing with addiction, a 12-step program, a means of traveling from dependency on substances to a spiritual awakening, the 12-step being about a spiritual awakening. And the journey between those 2 points, I think, is universally applicable. There are some people that have objections to like 12-step because there's some old-fashioned language in there, for example, say, and some religious ideas in there that may not chime with the way people see spirituality in religion today. But I've found, with my own experience of being taught it and learning it, that there's something that's remarkably inclusive and universal about it. And just to briefly like chat through it, so that, like, you know, just because to hear myself talk, why, you know, God, I can't have enough. Like, admit there's a problem, believe it's possible for the problem to change, be willing to accept help from a power greater than yourself, whether that's a group of people that you trust or a more what do I want to say, metaphysical or not necessarily.
And like a higher power is what they call it, right?
Right, higher power, yeah, Katie.
Something
because
outside of yourself.
Something outside of yourself, because otherwise everything is sort of undertaken with recourse only to the ego. That's at least what I found. That I'm like, oh, I'm such a fuck up. My life's such a mess. Do you want some help? No, leave me alone. I'm in charge of this shit. I'll work it out myself. You know, like so it's all quite difficult to not be your own mentor, to be your own counsel, and because particularly if you don't trust people, it's quite hard. So I found, like, you know, that after you've got yourself in a position where you're willing to accept help, there's an inventorying process, you know, that's like pretty thorough, as a matter of fact. And then the confession process. Like step 4 is you make an inventory. Step 5 is you share that inventory with someone you trust who knows what they're talking about. And as a result of that inventory, you now have a better idea of what your problems were, and you are now confronted with them, and you have to ask yourself if you're willing to change. Are you willing to live, in my case it was like, are you willing to be less prideful, self-pitying, greedy, self-centered, selfish, lustful, dishonest, arrogant, envious, jealous, all these things, all these problems that I took to be outside problems, when analysed, I began to realise, oh, I'm participating in this. Not to say bad things don't happen, you know, abuse, violence, whatever, things that happen, and you think, well, I didn't cause that. You know, what this 12-step program gives us is a new way of reframing and moving on, so that we're no longer defined by trauma serious trauma, or even just fake perceptions. The last steps are about staying awake. That's step 10, like is a sort of like watching your emotions and watching how you feel and try not to turn into paranoid maniac, listening for cracks. Oh my God, what was that? And then step 11 is like about prayer and meditation and evolving your personal consciousness. And the sort of step 12 is about a spiritual awakening, which could more perhaps secularly be described as a different perspective. And from that new perspective, recognizing that unless you're being of service to other people, unless you're helping other people, you can never be happy. And it's not really a moral conclusion, even though it sounds super moral. It's like just a bluntly pragmatic. As long as you're just thinking about garnering more approval, you are not going to be fulfilled. And that's been the experience that I've lived in a variety of milieu, like, this is what it's like to pursue drugs, fame, sex, and all of these things lead to the same place of despair, despondency. And this process of like staying awake and trying to be of service is working for me. I still go in and out of it. Like all of the time I sort of go back to being sort of selfish and lost. Normally if I'm frightened or full of desire, and I think it's no coincidence that we live in a culture that continually stimulates fear and desire, whether it's the desire of the advertising industry or the fear of the media, So I feel like it's not just something for addicts and not something for addicts with substance misuse issues or even obvious behavioural issues, but for any person. Is because it really deals with that thing of like we're all individuals now. Like the genie's out of the bottle. No one's going to go back to thinking of themselves as a member of a parish, or like we're all the members of this town and we see the world the same way. People are like, no, I'm me, man. There's no way back from that. I don't think. And so. That's where I am with it, and I feel like it could be applicable in your world just on the basis of what we've said in this short but enjoyable conversation. I'm glad you two are in love. That's nice. You've formed your own corner.
Do you have any specific, questions that you could kick off for people? Because I'm just thinking, obviously. I don't know what stage in the 12 this is. Is this like 5 or something when you're admitting stuff to other people? This is step 1.
But 5 is confession, yeah.
Yeah. So there might be people that all of us are on different journeys with different struggles. But I wonder if anyone feels like they're happy to share anything they're currently struggling with or things that they've overcome. And part for me of having this group of people and other influences that we can get involved long term in a bit of more of an intimate community where we can really have trust and find belonging is realizing that as an influencer, what are we influencing? What are we actually making a difference? And some of us have found that, and it could be entertainment, it could be inspiring people to push out their comfort zones or to travel or whatever. But I like the idea that the more that we share together and be vulnerable together, that will have a ripple on effect to this broader, audience we all have, but I don't know.
Yeah, hit us, Louis. Yeah. What you got?
We were chatting a little bit on the car on the way over here, and I realised, and for a long time I didn't realise that my kind of addiction to this, especially this daily sharing my life in every element of my life daily online, and that it became so blurred with my identity that I actually thought it was my identity. I remember having an argument with one of my friends because he wanted to invite me to something. He's like, but we're not filming this. You can't film. And I'm like, but that's me. Fun for Louis was my channel name, and Louis Cole, it's the same person. And I remember thinking that so clearly. I was like, I've melded this idea that my purpose and being and who I was now had a camera attached as another part of my body that I was sharing everything and had to share everything. And yeah, a big part of that was the approval and the likes and the views and all of that stuff, which I at the time was no, that doesn't matter so much, but there's always this underlying thing of it all. And I think because of that, it damaged our relationship. The moment we met is on camera, and really? starting a relationship, it was all on camera. And it's how do you, and I mean, I'll let you share a bit of your perspective, but she felt like there was a third person in our relationship from the very start. And it wasn't until I actually put the camera down and was this is unhealthy, that we actually got much closer as a couple. And then I realized, a lot of my other friendships have been damaged from this behavior, and I didn't even see it. And now I'm actually in a weird position where I identified this was a destructive thing. my relationship with it was destructive. But I still do want to create content and make videos to share with people. But I'm trying to figure out how to reform that with a healthy relationship. And I've stopped daily vlogging like a year ago, but I still have this weird feeling of like, I don't know if I want to film stuff anymore because of what it was for me before. Like, how do I reform that healthy relationship? Yeah. And honestly, this last year has been amazing, and I've had like stints of not filming for ages, but I've still tried to upload a couple of times a month or once a week or something. Do you know what I mean? I haven't had like a year off. Like,
but even taking like a month off or something.
Yeah.
Not to say that's what you have to do. That's not like the answer. It's just like then reframing like what would.
But then it's after that month is like, how do you then? Because there's some addictions which I imagine hard drugs, which you can just be like, never going to touch them again. But then there's some. It's more about our attitude towards that thing, or you know, like an addiction to your phone. Like you still need to a phone.
Yeah.
Well, it's like how do you feel? Because I mean, we all struggle with this. Like, when do you post? When do you not post? How often do I allow people into my life or in my sphere? Right? Because it's all like, what am I allowing myself to digest?
And then, do you read the comments, and do you actually care about like how people are like literally deconstructing everything in your life? And like,
I mean, that's my. I'll share that later. Like boundaries and shit like that. But I think some of it for me is like thinking about how do I feel. Like, what's the layer behind why I want to do something? Like, am I doing it to numb out? Am I doing it to disconnect, or am I doing it to connect? And is that fulfilling to me? Like, what's the goal? Does that make sense? Like, because for me, I feel fulfilled when I think that I'm putting out something that could potentially help a person. Like, that's the whole reason my channel started. Was like, if I can help one person, then like it'll all be worth it. So if that's the goal, then if I track back from that and I'm like, oh, I think I want to film this video, then is that gonna fulfill me? Is that part of that chain, or is it that I feel like I need to because I need to fulfill some algorithm or I need more likes, I need to gather more likes?
Well, something interesting you said when we first started kind of reflecting on your journey with daily vlogging was that it was like every single day if you uploaded a video, that was like check my purpose, my fulfillment, like it was all held in that. So, and you even shared like when you stopped every day, it was like, what is it now?
Oh yeah, I was getting like the shakes, like, oh, it was a proper withdrawal, serious withdrawal. Like, I'd feel like weird all day, like I wasn't.
Something wasn't
right. Yeah, like I'd go reach for my camera and be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
Do you remember a moment where it shifted from what you were doing that you wanted to do into an addiction?
It's just it was so overlapping, because it wasn't like it was a sinister, like, what the actual reason I was loving doing it was that it was like inspiring people, and people are like, oh, I want to travel the world, I want to meet these people, I want to broaden my understanding, you know. And it was, I don't think any of the content was negative, but it was like the relationship that slowly crept in between me needing. I remember like I wouldn't take a day off no matter what. It was like weird. Like I remember we went to Cuba for a week and I couldn't upload because I couldn't get internet. And when I went back, instead of thinking I've got 7 videos in the bag ready to like take the next week off, I was like, I can upload twice a day now.
Oh my God.
So I the next week filmed every day next week, and I was uploading a Cuba vlog. It was just so weird. Like I was like, why was I doing that?
The reason I think this system is successful and will be universally successful in helping people to unravel their attachment to the external material world is there are certain universal codes that keep emerging every time I hear people explain their relationship with phenomena that troubles them. When you said that thing that I felt melded into the identity that I had, that I was indistinguishable, that it had become intrinsic, it had become your higher purpose. You said that you know, if Louis weren't doing it, he felt that there weren't no purpose or meaning. You talked about not being able to identify what was the reason, whether it was a positive motivation to help others, or whether it was sort of like, you know, to satiate the almighty algorithm, you know, and how neatly that aligns with the inner algorithm of anxiety and constant wanting. And that welded so perfectly, Louis, with like the addiction paradigm, that, you know, that the ultimate intention of undertaking a program is to get rid of the program you've already got. We've already been programmed by our class, race, gender, sex. This is who you are. This is how you're going to make yourself happy. You're a consumer. You're a worker. You're going to live this way. And then some of us find, you know, like the various iterations of that, how we're going to make that system work for us. But sooner or later, we're all confronted with the truth that you can't have some sort of constructed God that you're trying to appease. I don't think we make a choice whether or not to believe in God. I think we just decide what version of God is it going to be. Is it going to be the God of the ideological construct America, the God of the ideological construct consumerism? These things are all phantasmic constructions. And like what I felt like, mate, listen to you, is I thought, this will work, man. Because it's once you go, this is a problem, you've acknowledged, right, I'm doing this too much, I can't control it. One is a problem. And it's interesting that you mentioned abstinence or potentially a period of detoxing from it, you know, because, and like you said, mate, that with behavioural addictions like food or sex or whatever, these are natural, as it were, behaviours that, you know, that people are going to engage in. So what it made me feel is that once you've acknowledged there's a problem, you have to believe it's possible to change. No, this is the Louis that I am. I can't be another Louis. And then if you come to believe that there's people that were like you that have progressed and got beyond that problem, then are you willing to accept new advice? And some people aren't. You talked about really obvious problems like, listen, you're in this abusive relationship, you need to do these things. I used to be in an abusive relationship, now I'm not, this is what to do. No, I'm doing my shit. Well then, that's it, you're not in the game properly. So once you've like arrived at that sort of point of, there is a problem, I believe it can change, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Once you're there at that point, then there can be genuine change. Otherwise, you're operating still within the ecosystem that created the problem in the first place. But the broader, more profound point, I feel, is that we're all striving for meaning, purpose, and material activity.
Yeah, and it's hard as well when I just thought this, like, when the thing that you realise you've got a negative relationship with is also intrinsically tied to your income, and therefore, like, you know, your security in life and everything. And like, if you're churning out videos every day on YouTube and you've got a good following, you're making a lot of money. And then it's like, I'm like, I need to stop this. And then it's like, can I, I really need to just accept that means I'm making less money. And that whole journey of like realizing, okay, that's, the extra money I would be making, it's not worth it. It's not worth that staying in that place.
And I imagine that you would discover, even if you were to do that unless you address the root cause, that there'll be some other permutation or manifestation. That, the apex of addiction is not overusing YouTube. It just seems particularly germane because that's something that like all of us here have experience of. But my more obvious and rudimentary experience with addiction is you take away drugs, then you start acting out sexually. You take away sex, then you start acting out food. And until you go, what is it you want? Yeah. What do you want? What are you trying to get YouTube to do for you that like it cannot do? Because if YouTube was the answer, then you would have found it by now. You're super successful on YouTube. So all right, we can rule that off, but we're wedded to it by so many tendrils: economic, financial, personal, self-esteem, etc. But like that's why I feel like that where you get to is something that sounds quite transcendent, and you have to be careful communicating it because a lot of people are spooked by the idea of a transcendent world, spiritual beliefs, because it can sound a bit wacky and woo-woo. Yeah. But I think the reason that those ideas are condemned is to prevent people finding those kind of answers, so that you carry on like obedient little workers serving the system.
Yeah, buying things, wanting things, feeding into it. And it's interesting though, like, because I think the problem, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but in YouTube it can feel like if this isn't who you are anymore, let's say you're like, I want a different, I'm there, what do I do to change? I don't like how this is, this sucks. Our audience can be like, no, where are you?
I like this. I don't like this other you. I just like this you.
Yeah.
And that's the you that everybody likes. We don't like that other you. So it feels very like you're trapped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned that at our other dinner about like switching your content and people aren't liking it.
And like, I didn't follow you for this.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah, go to another country, you want to see you travel. Like,
travel
I've
everywhere.
been every country.
Right?
Get on a plane.
Yeah.
Why did you stop doing it?
I think I had some deaths in the family and it was emotionally taxing and I was just burnt out. Like Louis said, I was just always making videos and not taking days off. It'd be Christmas and I'd be like, I have to get this video, you guys go to dinner, I'll be editing. And it just felt like so many years of that. I was just so burnt out and overworked and I had no more creative ideas. I had nothing new. I was like, nothing excited me to share with people anymore. And it just felt like my emotions were just kind of tapped out. And I was like, I don't have anything to give anybody. I don't have any ideas. So it just felt like extreme burnout, emotionally exhausted. And then like you said, like the algorithm, every month that I was not on YouTube, it made me more scared to upload again. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be in the algorithm. They're not gonna show my video. I'm gonna feel like a loser and a failure. And then the next month would roll around and it would be compounded. And I'd be like, well, now I really don't wanna do it. And now it's like a year later and I'm like, cool, 2 people are gonna see it. And it won't be millions and people will think I'm a loser now and they're gonna unsubscribe to me. It's just like weird.
But we build these stories. That's something that I've been trying to be more aware of for myself is like it's the comparison, right? Comparing like out to what you used to do or what you think is expected of you.
Yeah.
Like, and then you build the story around it. Like, oh, we've already told it to me. Like, I would create this video, I'd put it out, it's gonna get 2 views. People are gonna think I'm a loser. Like, we've taken it from like soup to nuts of like this shitty story.
Yeah. I know.
And it's holding me frozen. And I do it. Like, I'm not saying I'm better. Like, I do that all the time where I'm like, I'll look at other people's things because my channel is not that, it's a very niche type of channel. And I'm like, how come? Like, I'm trying to put good out there and like, I don't think YouTube's serving it up. Why wouldn't they serve it up? I'm such a loser. Nobody's paying attention. This is worthless. Why am I spending so much energy on this? And then like, I'm a crier. Just, he doesn't know. He doesn't know yet. So like that could happen.
Well, you might cry now.
Oh, in
this.
general, yeah. I'm always a crier. So I was like, they know.
Yeah.
But like noticing that story and like checking your facts. Because like we don't have any facts to support that.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't happened. We don't know if it will happen.
Yeah. How much of it is reality and how much of it is a phantom that you've created in your mind?
Yeah.
And almost 99% of our problems are phantoms that we've created in our mind.
Yeah, that's how we talk to ourselves about it. And we build up these fake stories and then we live it out exactly as we expect it to be because we've already created. Does that make sense? It makes it's like crazy in our own making.
Well, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy
Yeah.
because you stop uploading because you're afraid, and so you're afraid you're going to get less views, but then you get less views because you're uploading less, and it's like, see, I knew that was going to happen.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, we create our own realities in that way.
Yeah.
Or it feels in this space to me too that it's changed. Like when I started, like Louis said, you couldn't make money doing YouTube. Everybody was just doing it for a hobby, or you liked it, you wanted to share knowledge.
No one was
or-
trying to set up a business, or they started.
Nobody was
YouTube
doing
back in the
brand
day.
deals. Nobody was
You
doing
couldn't
anything.
even make money for a while. I couldn't even make thumbnails for like
You
years.
couldn't even make a video longer than 10 minutes. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so when it started that way, when I was like, oh, I have friends, I'm helping people, they're feeling good, and it felt great. And then it changed, and as it's changed, the community that you helped create or pave the way for, I'm like, ugh, I don't even like what they're doing. It's all about materialism and superficiality and so many things that don't matter to me, and I feel gross. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to perpetuate it. I don't want to encourage it. But then they're like, that's what you started. That's what we know you for. I'm like, no, not the other junk. I was just teaching you like how to do this and make you feel beautiful and maybe like encourage you and stuff. But I think then that part is like these people that are crazy more successful than me, like, oh cool, you're a bazillionaire, you're a bazillionaire, you have 10 mansions, you have 12 mansions, and I'm the reason you started, that's awesome. You know, and then it just felt like, ugh, what is this do? Is this like the marker? I'm like, I go and do something totally different. But then there's the people that are like, oh, I miss you there. Come back. You need to be a light in this dark place. And it just feels like a weird thing. I'm like, I want to go there. I want to help you. I want to be there. But then the messages where people are like, you encouraged me and inspired me, and I was suicidal, and you helped me keep living. Those are what I want to keep going for. The rest of it, I'm like, I don't care. Nobody's making like the YouTube golden day money anymore. So it's not like I'm going to jump back in and be like, that's where I'm making all my money. Yeah. So it just feels like a weird time or space.
Yeah.
And knowing like phone addiction is crazier and TikTok stuff is crazy. I'm like, now I gotta do TikTok? Oh my gosh, I can't even do YouTube.
And it's like, even being an influencer now, it's like, do we want to encourage like kids to be like on their phones watching us all the time? And then I'm just like, put your phone down. But then I'm like, but that's kind of counterintuitive.
Also watch me.
Yeah. Watch me and then put your phone down. But actually don't watch me, just put your phone down.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go to bed on Instagram. Like it's just not healthy. It's I miss when like there weren't phones in high school. Nobody had cell phones. And I was like, what did I do then? I was like, I guess I drew and I read books and listened to music and then stared out the window. What did I do? You know?
Yeah. Connect with people. That's
now
really
any second I have down in the airport, I'm waiting in line. I'm like, oh, what's happening on Instagram? What are they tweeting? It's like a weird. I don't even like that. I'm like a victim or.
And it doesn't make me feel good after. I actually feel like shit.
You never
more.
feel fulfilled.
No, because it's just like I don't know. And I for a while. So this is what I'm working on in therapy. Is for a while I'd worry that if I didn't like somebody's thing, they'd be like, oh, she's like such an asshole.
Yeah, like, she's not my friend.
Her. She's so rude. Like,
Well,
how
you
dare
don't like that photo.
like if I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, that's my own construct. Like
Yeah.
I've made this own false story of like, oh, people are.
Or
gonna
people
think
say
I'm a
things like, well, didn't you see my stories? I'm like,
Yeah.
of course I don't know you're on vacation. I don't see your stories.
Yeah, like the expectation of like keeping up with it, and then I was just like so unhappy because I was just like doing things just because I didn't want people to not think I cared.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, we all came from a time when YouTube was, or most of us at least, you kind of came into a time when...
She's newer.
Yeah, you're newer.
She's fresh.
Back in my day, we just did it for the fun of it. And I came in around 2010 when, you know, the OGs had sort of proven that you can have an audience and start to make money. And so I went in with that expectation. I actually went in wanting the fame and the money. And I don't know if that rings a bell with you or not, but what's interesting, and I know your journey as well, it's actually similar to mine, I actually got it. And then you actually got it. This didn't make me happy. The thing that I've been wanting this whole time wasn't the thing that fulfilled me. And in fact, it exacerbated the problem. I became ego identified with, I'm this famous guy on YouTube. And I'll never forget, I remember looking at my bank account and making 6 figures a month at my prime. And I was so incredibly depressed. And stressed out. I had all this stuff that I once wanted that you also once wanted. And I was miserable. And it wasn't until a friend introduced me to meditation that opened the door to me reading dozens of books and you know, listening to Alan Watts and even some of your videos, Russell, as well. Especially your videos. No, really, there's a lot of insight there. But you know, it's once you go down that road, you discover what the ego is. And I think that is the biggest thing that people need to understand, is that you are not your thoughts. You are not the identity that you've attached to. And programming of I am this thing. I am Matt Santoro from Canada, and that is who I am, and I'm a YouTuber, and I have to maintain a certain amount of videos, just like you had to travel and shoot every single place you went. And there's a time where, like you said, Russell, when you know, I had a spiritual awakening through a tremendous amount of pain and isolation, and once you start to learn to observe the thoughts, you start to be able to unravel all of the programming. And it's nice to see young people are meditating now. It's so exciting to me because they've got my nephew has such a leg up on our generation, because I'm super grateful that I was able to discover it, because some people never will. And depending on if you believe in karma and all that, you might be able to be recreated and have to come back and do it all over again, as you know. But in any event, it's cool to see people meditating and having even discussions like this, and how we can talk about, you know, what we've learned and share it with wonderful programs like this. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting you're talking about like you were making like the best money like at your prime and you were so unhappy. Raya and Kandee and I were just talking before we came here about like we set these goals, like these crazy goals, and then you get there and you're like, womp womp, like, you know, because the real
it's
joy
not
is
long-term
like,
fulfilling. You're like, well, I did it.
yeah.
Well, now I gotta do something even more. It doesn't.
And the goal happens like in one day usually. It's like the finishing of a project, or something goes up, or you hit a certain amount of views or subscribers or whatever your goals are. But it's really that journey that we have to like appreciate, because that, you know.
But then it starts to go away.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing, is like you achieve what you wanted. And so, for example, the peak of my YouTube channel was 2015, 2016. And then, as everything does, my career started to cool off. And because I was so identified with being, it was a part of me. And then once I stopped hitting the metrics of views and all of that, I was like, oh my God, I'm losing it. I'm losing that thing. Like I had it, and now it's like escaping from my
Instead of
hand.
understanding it as a cycle, like there's so much language in the space of like, oh, you're irrelevant, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, rather than realizing there's a natural kind of like, there's always people like have a peak, maybe, I don't know, like it's something I've had to come to terms with.
Was there a point where like when you were at that peak that you were like, this is gonna last forever?
Oh, 100%. 100. You never, when you have it,
You guys, know what it is? You guys are killing it, but imagine if like your views started like none of them were hitting 1 million views anymore.
Yeah.
And then none of them ever did anymore. Do you know what I mean? Then you'd be like, well, we need to get them back up to 1 million. Like you have to like.
And then you start working harder and harder, and it all comes down to attachment and desire, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the Buddha taught: is selfish desire and attachment is the source of all suffering. Mm-hmm. So when you're attached to the views and they start going away, you feel like you're losing literally yourself. And
Matt, what you just said there about attachment and non-attachment is a significant part of the solution. And we've spent a lot of time now discussing the nuances and nature of the problem with particular regard to YouTube content creation. But of course, you surely recognize that this is one minute expression of a much, much broader phenomenon. So if I could turn the attention a little to the solution, what I feel is interesting about the process that we've been doing for the course, Louis, is that it's once you've acknowledged that there is a problem, you know, like we're now willing to change direction. We're willing to change direction, and all of us, except for you, because you're at this Ferris Bueller point of wonderful, explosive and creative wonder. Once we've acknowledged that there's a problem, and like just to reiterate that I'm not like, you know, as has been said already, I'm in the crucible myself. I don't consider myself to be beyond it. I just have had loads of different experiences of dealing with an interesting variety of problems because I am so bloody stupid and a clear recidivist, keep going back to the material solutions continually to solve this spiritual problem. Because like, you're right, I mean, like the ultimate thing that we're all trying to get to is the Siddhartha, Jesus, Muhammad, the material world is an illusion, none of this stuff is real, commune with God, commune with the limitless oneness that's accessible to all of us, the seat of all consciousness is the same, the thing that's looking from behind my eyes at your eyes is the same thing, there is limitless oneness, right? So it should take that long to solve the world's problems. Oh no, I was prioritising the material world. We were going to bomb Iran. No, don't bomb Iran. It's an illusion. No, we needed to make more profits. No, it's an illusion. So that information's out there, and yet it's not working. Now, the reason I think that is because many of these ideas are, by their definition, archaic. They're in some cases, pre-civilized ideas, or dead desert ideas that were for civilizations that have evolved and now, like, the highly technological. where consumerism is at sort of peak point, where there's ecological crises on the cards. And what I think is particular and unique about this program, the program of recovery meaning recover the person you were intended to be, is this being given a journey that's robust enough to withstand the individuality of all of us around this table and potentially everyone that gets access to it, so that we can, what I want to say, guide people to a point where there is an acceptance of, the answer is going to be prayer and meditation, communion with this higher self. But to get people there, I think we need a language, a discourse, and a system. I don't think that we can get there just by, I think communication and community in groups like this are really, really powerful. But what I have found more powerful in my experience is being given a clear system of, you have to do this. Go away, do it, and when you have done it, you will be different. This becomes particularly relevant when you get to the inventory process, when you look at what happened to you in your childhood that made you need attention and approval in this way. What patterns do you see that emanated from your early life, continuing to be expressed in the arenas of your work, in your romantic life, your sexual life? How are you seeing these things realized? And the thing that is beautiful about this system is there's a clear, like, anyone can do it. It's like, right, you write in this column the thing you resent, you write the reason you resent them here, here's the 7 areas of instinct that have been affected, and the 4th column is what part of you was participating in this problem, what belief do you need to change. By the end of that, that's not the problem resolved, but at least you've got a kind of diagnosis. Whether it's something as serious as child abuse or as frivolous as some fracas in traffic, you can sort of see, oh wow, I was participating in it. It also, very deliberately, very definitely, is inviting you to embrace this mysticism that you're describing, the idea, it doesn't need to be mysticism, as they say, magic is just power that we don't understand yet. Techniques and technologies that are difficult for us to countenance and rationalize because they go beyond the limits of the rational mind. You know, now we can see that mindfulness is useful, that meditation helps, that these breathing techniques work because there's brain scans and neuroscans and MRIs to demonstrate it, and yet somehow thousands of years ago people knew that anyway without access to those machines. So what I think this can be is a sort of a practical, secular way of getting people to look at their life differently, undergoing these different journeys that we're all describing our own permutations of. Oh, I thought this was going to make me happy, and then when I got it, it didn't make me happy, so I tried to do it again and it didn't make me happy, and then I thought I've got to get back to the million views. I mean, I'm continually in and out of that dilemma, continually in and out of that dynamic. That's why I need, firstly, a system that guides me to enlightenment, and that's what we're talking about, really, transcendence of material goals, recognition that no version of material goals is ever going to make me happy. And then a community that is awakened to those principles so they can remind us, because all of us, in my experience, all of us around this table, I'm guessing, are fuck-ups, but not at the same time. So hopefully we can go, no, Louis, you've gone self-obsessed. No, Russell, that's mental. You know, we can help one another if there is an agreed-upon system. So that's the idea behind proliferating this system, is getting enough people familiar with it so people are working it in conjunction, in harmony, wherever they find it relevant, their working life. Because from listening to you, I think this would work. You could do the 12 steps around like content providing or creativity, because it's just work addiction. Work addiction, bloody common. Whether it's whether there's uploading and editing is part of that or not. It's the same basic thing. This thing's going to make me happy. This is going to make me complete. I've underwritten it economically now. People love me because of it. I get approval. I get recognised. Fame and celebrity are no different from what you're describing. But the solution is what's important to me. And I'd really like to know, I suppose, from you individually and collectively, if you happen to have one hive mind, what sort of problems you're interested in changing, so I can see if there are ways that it's applicable.
Should we let Raya and Elle contribute? Because I feel like anyone with the loudest voice has always heard more though.
Well, yeah, so before we listened to the course, I heard of the title and I was like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't see how this is applicable to me. And then we started listening to it, and a few minutes in, I was like, whoa, that's the whole point. I love that you say that very early on, that everyone has something that they are addicted to or that they're struggling with, and this is applicable to kind of anything that you're struggling with. And we actually paused it, we were listening to this together, and we started thinking, okay, what is it for us if it's not these like obvious things that we might be addicted to? And thinking back, I think a few years ago, for me, it was definitely insecurities about my body. I had a day where I realized that I thought about my body easily over 100 times a day, if not more. And when you said it, where you were like, it's something that you know you need to stop doing, but you can't stop doing it. And I was like, it was so that for me. And I've worked a lot through that, and realizing what was I really trying to get from that. And at the time, I didn't think that I was worthy of love unless my body looked different. And then in this last year, it shifted into working and feeling like I realized I was asking myself this question of, what do I need to do to make people proud of me and therefore for them to love me? So I thought, if I achieved these things, if I was successful, to the point where like my dad would message me and I would see it and I was like, I can't message him back until I've done something to tell him that I've done something.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And again, it was the same thing, just thinking that I had to do something to be worthy of love. And it was literally like 3 weeks ago that I was confronted with that question that I've been asking myself. And then I was like asked to kind of change the wording of it. And I changed it to like, what if I just appreciated how much people love me already without having to do anything? And immediately the first thing I thought was, well, that can't be true, because then how would I do anything? Like if I just assumed that I was loved without doing anything, then why would what would drive me? Which then I stopped and I was like, what the fuck? I've never even considered that I might be worthy of love just for being who I am. And that was like literally a couple weeks ago. So I feel like my whole life has like shaken, and now it's like trying to settle it. And even like in this new year, it's January, and normally this time of year I'm like, I have my goals, I know exactly what they are, they're written out on a poster, they're on my wall, I'm like ready to achieve. And I don't want that anymore, and I'm trying to figure out like what life could look like if I didn't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
I think that is a common fear. It's like if you lose the motivation of wanting to be enough and wanting to be loved, then what's going to motivate you, you know? And if you are motivated and you lose everything, and then what? You know, that's even more terrifying. So we'll just latch on to that need to be loved. But I guess the question is it possible to already feel so loved and then also have the drive to be successful? Like Steve Jobs is the perfect example. Like family, he was adopted. So there must have been this like desperate need to feel love and to feel noticed. And usually, if you look at all the greatest empires, and I'm not saying empires are great, but all the biggest empires, biggest companies, it usually comes from pretty egotistical people. So the question, is there a way to actually be quite successful without like having that need to, the drive to feel love?
I definitely think there is. And even when I first like shifted my question and I realized maybe then I wouldn't be afraid of failing if it didn't matter whether I failed or not. If I was loved, because right before then it was like if I fail, then the people I love wouldn't love me. So that's like all the highest possible stakes. But if it's like, oh, but what if I fail and everyone still loves me? And then I realized, because at first I was like, I can't believe this because then I won't do anything with my life. And then I was like, actually, maybe I'll just go for way bigger dreams because the stakes aren't so high whether I fail or not.
Yeah, like a little net.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that.
I like what you identified about the techniques that you were using were kind of doomed to be unsuccessful, like continually inventorying flaws with one's body is going to create a continual state of anxiety. And I identified a lot with the thing you said about needing to have something to tell people when they're going to be on the phone. And what I think, again, this system is good at identifying is, what does this wanting want? You've tried all these things, you keep giving it stuff. What does it want? Where's it trying to get? Because I was thinking you two obviously really, really love each other, but that wasn't enough. That didn't, oh, cool, Louis really loves me, so now finally that problem. So it's not a rational, logical thing that can be resolved by rational, logical means, which means we need access to something that is beyond rationalism. This is the problem in a materialistic, rationalistic, scientific age, and it didn't begin with technology. Some argue it begins with the Enlightenment, or perhaps the human condition itself, thinking that everything can be resolved out here. If we just manage bureaucratically the problems of our life, then we're going to alchemize the perfect inner state. But it seems that what you were talking about is love, and love is a kind of, in a one way I've started to understand it, is an absence of self, a kind of, if you love a football team, or if you love an individual, or if you love a child, or if you love a pair of shoes, it's a kind of I am at one with this thing, I am at one with myself, I am at one with this other person, free from the constant narrativizing, damning mind telling me that if I had like nicer thighs or this bit fat, if that could go, that guy. I was in a lymph draining thing earlier today, trying to drain it out. Took ages, it's still there! What about Elle though?
I have a very addictive personality, and I think I just recently stopped drinking and smoking, and I also, when I stop drinking and smoking, I intend to then go for fast food and overindulge in that. But I feel like all my addictions kind of stem from this bigger thing of me those are my coping mechanisms, and it's because I think it's I'm addicted to self-hatred. I'm super hard on myself, and I think I dwell, and I've had friends say that I think you like being depressed. I think you enjoy being hard on yourself because you don't feel like you deserve to be loved. And so I think when I think about my depression, my anxiety, and all that, it's all stems from I put all of my self-worth in everything else and the things I do, because I feel like if I look successful, then I am successful, and I'm worthy. And so so I've been taking little steps. So I've been on that path. I've been recognizing that I've been using other addictions to cope and stuff. So I've been stopping that and just like fully, because I've tried to do the balance thing, but I'm a very all or nothing person. And so I'm just gonna have to go with the nothing, you know? And it's been good. I've been like super clear headed. Like I feel like, I don't know, like obviously like when you get super drunk or super high, there's like this, like you're super happy, but then the next day like the come down is super, super hard. And it was just ongoing cycle. And I just kind of realized like a few weeks ago, I was like, this cycle is gonna end up killing me. Like it's becoming a lot. And so that's really what I'd like to change, is not being so hard on myself ultimately.
I'm really proud of you for being so young and being so smart and being able to recognize this so early on. Like you're not doing this when you're 35 and you've really screwed up your life for years. Like I'm really amazed and proud of you for doing that.
And I think I do think it's because was forced to grow up really fast when YouTube kind of blew up. Because it blew up my channel like 18, 19. And I never like kind of traveled without my mom, and then I was going 3 months without my parents and being alone in hotel rooms and doing tour like meet and greets and and it was just like I think within 6 months is like I had my first panic attack alone, and so I think it was just like I've been through it, and now I'm like I can't. It's gonna end up bad. So I snapped out of it.
But that's really good that you foresee that, you recognize it, and you you have the wherewithal to even change that. Some people are like, I don't even care. This is how I just keep knowing things. I'm going to keep coping.
100%. And I think of the 12-step process. Like I think I contribute a lot of that to like people like Katie, like all of you guys. Like I had so many people who went through what I was going through, and that helped me through that, and like were kind of my mentors. I had so many mentors, and I think that's what kind of made me more wiser. And now I feel like I'm able to kind of help out people, because there's a lot of newer kids especially. So it feels great to like kind of be helping out. I feel like
that's so great though.
And also, Elle's just moved to LA like literally a month ago, right? And I just want to say, like, I can't speak for everyone, but I am going to kind of like, I want to be there for you, and like I don't know if you feel this, but like having a community where they on this depth rather than just this shallow. I think we can all be shallow as well, but like I feel like there's certain communities and friendship groups I've connected in with, and like, like there's not the depth here that people need truly as to be part of something that supports you, you know. So I just want to say I want to be a support to you.
Let's start a group chat.
Or let's just start meeting every week, do you know what I mean? Or every other week or something. Like that's kind of the plan. But thanks for being so vulnerable.
Elle, you said something that I thought was really interesting. Two things actually. The first thing was you're really hard on yourself, and you're almost addicted to self-hate, and I think that's actually the reason that you're successful, and the reason we're all successful, because we are hard on ourselves, and we do have an unusual drive and desire for something greater. The other thing that you said was your friend said that you almost liked being depressed, and to a degree that's actually true, because what happens is after you get depressed for long enough, depression becomes your comfort zone. It's what you know, and oftentimes people prefer known hells over unknown heavens, and so many people would rather stay in that zone because you're too afraid of what it might take to get out of this, or you even forget what it's like to be happy on a regular basis. And that's what they mean by your comfort zone can literally kill you. And that's why it's important to step out of your comfort zone.
Thank you. That was a very good link and wrap up. I also think there was a beautiful moment there where you could have done some crying, because there was some lovely bonding.
Because Raya always sets it off and stuff. I'm like, don't think about it, move on.
Well, thank you so much, all of you, for letting me participate, sit in this community, because I think it was really brilliant what you said towards the end there, Louis, like that it seems like what you're heading to is like creating communities built on openly speaking vulnerably and supporting one another, because that's a vital component of what we're trying to set up. The first one, being there is a system that you can follow, and if you follow that system, it will help you to change any behavior you want to change. And the second one is you don't have to do it alone, and in fact, you probably can't do it alone, and it feels to me like a very organic expression of something that people are continually looking for. I was thinking as I was doing this, it sort of became clear to me, oh wow, you're not really actually necessary in this situation. You should just hand over the pamphlets and like let people get on with it. But that is actually, my ego aside, the sort of point of it, that there is a system that will work for anybody and will work for everyone if it's undertaken collectively, even though I would prefer a system that required me to be sat in a prominent position, present, perhaps wearing a robe. Would that kill? Like crown, maybe? So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for facilitating it. And it's so lovely, and I hope I get to remain a part of your squad of beautiful, open, clear, switched on, awakened people. Thank you.